welcome to today's video. Today I will show you how to join all of your beautiful granny squares. I will use a method that is called the join as you go method. I have used it on this blanket, as you can see here. The good things about this method is that, first of all, you don't need to have all of your granny squares ready. You can start by only having a few ready, and you can already start joining them. A lot of other methods will require that you have all your granny squares ready at once so you can lay them out and you can do horizontal and vertical joinings. The other good thing about this method is that you don't need to know any new stitches or any new techniques. If you know how to do the granny squares, you can also easily join them. This joining is really perfect for like a blanket. It's a little loose, it's not a really tight one, but again, I think it's perfect for a blanket. You get this really nice and flat joining, as you can see, and it's flat on both the front and the back side. Another thing that can be a little difficult when you are a beginner is to be able to recognize your stitches, and there's really no need for that either when we're using this method. A few things to remember. I like to have my granny squares facing up, so the side that was facing up when you created the granny square will also be facing up when you are adding a border and joining them. You can use pretty much any color you want for joining. For this particular blanket, I have used a neutral color, a white creamy one, but you can also use a nice contrast color. That is really up to you. Let's get started. So for the first granny square, I'm using this green yarn. It's the same type of yarn that I used for creating the granny squares, and that is kind of important that you use the same type of yarn. Again, you can use a different color. For the first granny square, we're just going to make a border around it, and it's the same thing that we've been doing all along. We're just adding another round to it. So we'll start by attaching our yarn. Don't use the corners for attaching. Use one of your chain spaces up here. I will use the centered one. Just go in, attach the yarn by creating a knot. Before you pull it too tight, pull it a little over to your right side, just a little bit. It will make it easier. And then you can pull tight. You'll just start by doing what we always do. We chain 3. So you go into the chain space and you grab the yarn and pull it up in the front. So you created a loop that is now up here, and you chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And that is really all that's new to this. You'll just create your 2 double crochets as you always do when you start your granny square round. And that's it. You just keep continuing doing this all the way around, just as if you were changing the color of your granny square. And this will count as our border. So just do as you normally do and crochet all the way around. So now I'm almost at the end. I'm just going to create my last chain and slip stitch at the top up here, and then we're done with creating the border for our first granny square. So now it looks like this. Let's go ahead and see how we join this to our second granny square. So here's our second granny square. I already attached the green yarn and did our first 2 clusters. And now we're going into the corner, and the corner is where we're going to attach to our first granny square. So the point of this will be that we will create in the chain spaces up here, we will create our clusters, and at the same time we will attach to this first granny square using the chain spaces up here. But let's start with the corner. So we go into the corner as we normally do, and we start by doing 3 double crochets. So 1 and 2 and 3. And then we would normally chain 3 to create a new corner, but we're not going to do that. We're going to chain 1, and then we're going to attach to the corner of the first granny square. So the corner is up here. So we take our hook and we go into the corner. We pull the yarn from underneath and pull it up. So you have 2 loops on your hook, like that, and then you slip stitch. So you pull the one loop through the other, and then you're going to chain 1. So 1 chain, 1 slip stitch, and 1 chain will count as 3 chains. So you yarn over and you go back into the corner and you do your cluster of 3 double crochets. And now the corners are attached. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to attach in the next chain space. So I will be doing my next cluster here, but before I go over here, I will go up here and slip stitch, and I'll go back down here. So no chaining. We're not going to chain like we would normally do. We just go up in this chain space, pull the yarn through, like this, and slip stitch. And no chaining, just yarn over and go back into this chain space where you want to create your cluster of 3 double crochets. And that is what you're going to do for this side of the granny square. So again, go up, pull the yarn, and slip stitch. If you think it's a little difficult to do when you're holding your project in your hands, I really do recommend doing it on a table where you can just lay your project flat and see exactly where you're at, so you don't use the wrong chain spaces. And it's really easier to do in the beginning. When you're a little more, when you're a little more trained, it's not really an issue, and it's not a problem just to have your project in your lap like you would maybe normally do. So let's do, this is the last cluster before we get to the corner. I'll show you the corner. So just up here and slip stitch, and then we go into the corner. And again, we start the corner as we would normally do by doing 3 double crochets. 1 and 2 and 3. And then we're going to attach the corner in the same way as we did the first corner. So chain 1, go into the corner, pull the yarn from underneath, 2 loops, and slip stitch. And then you're going to chain 1. I like to turn my work now, and you go back into the corner and you do your 3 double crochets. And that is really all there is to the joining, this joining method. So just go ahead and finish the border around this second granny square, and I'll show you how to connect a third granny square. Just finished off this second granny square, and actually you can't even really tell which one was created first and which one was created second. I just want to say one thing. You might notice that there's a bit of a height difference up here, and you might think that this looked a little uneven. It's not that bad on the other side. But don't worry too much about it, because when you add more granny squares, it will kind of even out. So don't worry about that for now. Let's see how we attach our third granny square. So now we're ready to join our third granny square. I just started creating my border and I'm in the corner now. And we're at first going to do exactly as we did on the when we joined the second one. So we're in the corner, we're going to chain 1. Now you're going to pull out your 2 granny squares that you have already connected, and we're going to use this corner down here to connect it to. So we chained 1 and we go into the corner like we did before, pull the yarn up, you have your 2 loops, and you slip stitch, and then you chain 1. And you go back into the corner and do your cluster of 3 double crochets. So that is the same thing as we did when we joined the second one. Let's just go ahead and crochet along the way, still joining in every chain space. So you're still going to go in here and here and here and here and join. So instead of chaining one, you'll slip stitch in here like we did on the previous round. Let's meet up at this corner and I show you how to join up here. So now I've started this corner. I already did my 3 clusters and we're going to attach to this corner up here. So you have a corner here and one here, and we're going to do the opposite one. So again, we're just going to do what we've been doing all along. So chain 1, go into that corner, pull the yarn from underneath and slip stitch and chain 1. And then you can turn your work and go back into the corner and do your 3 double crochets. And then you're just going to continue along the remaining sides of your granny square. So let's meet up when we're done with this round. So now I've done attaching this 3rd granny square to our project, and we can go ahead and join our 4th one. Just want to mention now that, I mean, if you don't want to, you don't really have to attach down here now. You could just go over here or up here and all the way around. This is really up to you. Since this is the join as you go method, it doesn't really matter. Just remember to do 1 granny square at a time. So whenever you're creating a border for your granny square, you're also attaching it to your project. So let's go ahead and see how this 4th granny square can be connected. So now I started the border on our 4th granny square. I'll show you how to join. So we will be joining in this corner all the way up here, every chain space. Then we're going to join in the corner up here and every chain space down here. And it's the complete same thing as we've done on the previous round. I just really mainly want to show you how to connect up here. But let's just get started in this corner down here. So I did my 3 double crochets. I'm chaining 1, finding my corner, going in, coming up and slip stitch and chain and yarn over and going into my corner again. And again, after this corner is done, I'm going to slip stitch in the chain space above this and going back in and doing a cluster of 3 double crochets. So just go ahead and do that and I'll meet you down at the corner. So now we are up here at the corner. I just did my 3 double crochets and we want to attach to the other granny squares in the corner. So we have a corner here, which is the opposite one. We have a corner up here, and then we have a corner up here. And I would like to connect to the corner up here. So it's the total opposite one of the one we're doing down here. There is a little space here, and you will have to have your yarn pulled over here, which some people don't think look that nice. Could also go ahead and connect to this corner, or even between the 2 granny squares. But I think it looks the best when you use this one over here. But this is totally up to you, whatever you prefer. But let me just show you. So we're going to chain 1. We'll find that corner up here. Pull up. As you can see, there's a lot of distance between the 2. That is because we are going all the way up here. So slip stitch, chain 1, and go back into your corner. Let's just connect this one and have a quick look at what that looks like. Let's pull up. As you can see, it's nice, secure. You do have a little bit of the yarn showing here, but I mean, for me, I don't think that's an issue, and I would rather have it like this because this makes sure that they are really nicely joined now, and it looks the same all the way. If you use this one up here, it will look a little different, and I prefer this. Now you're going to go ahead and continue. So we just did our cluster, and again we have a border that we need to connect to up here. So we're not doing any chains, we're just going in here and slip stitching and going down here to create our cluster of 3 double crochets. So just go ahead and finish this all the way through, you know, connect with slip stitches instead of chaining. And I'll meet you down at the last corner. Now we're here at the corner. I'm just going to do as we normally do. We're going to attach to the corner up here. So again, let's just chain 1, go into the corner, grab your yarn, pull it through, slip stitch, chain 1, turn your work, and go back in and do your double crochets. And now we can just go ahead and finish the rest of the border. So now I just finished up here, and we joined 4 granny squares. So that's, I think it looks pretty good. You can still argue a little bit that there's some height differences along the sides, and it doesn't look completely even. So if I were doing this for a blanket, which I'm actually doing just in different colors, I would definitely create some kind of outer border. So I think in the next video, I will show you how you can create maybe just a simple border, but also show you how you can do something a little more decorative. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know below. And if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Maybe share it with someone you think will enjoy it as well. So thank you for today.